Hey everybody, this is going to be a little bit more informal. It's just a video about some DIY things you can make yourself at home if you don't want to buy actual authentic Montessori materials, which can be really expensive. I've gone ahead and made a PDF document of all of the things that I include in this video. You can see that in the description below. And it's all arranged by age and stage. So what you might expect right after baby's born, what you might want to make from 0 to 3 months, 3 to 6 months, 6 to 9 months, and so on. Keep in mind that these are just some of the things you can DIY. So without further ado, here are some basics you can start with. Here's a quick look at some of the things you might introduce from 0 to 3 months. The authentic materials on the left and the things that you can DIY at home with things that you have on the right. And I'll show you some videos and pictures next. A Tamponcino is one of the best things you can have for baby after they arrive. You can buy it or you can DIY it, as is traditionally done. Here's a look at how I created mine. I found a tutorial online and created a stencil with a paper bag on the right side. I cut out the 2 outer layers, which you can see in the middle, and then the 8 layers of cotton batting on the left, and then I hand stitched it together. I stitched the inner layers of cotton batting together with a blanket stitch. That's about 8 layers stitched together, and you can see they're not perfect, but that was okay because they were covered up by a cover. I personally stitched the cover on a sewing machine, although you can also do it by hand. It will take longer by hand though because it requires a tighter stitch. This cover is removable and washable. I haven't yet found a good alternative to the Tamponcino itself other than making it or buying it, although I guess you could use a bassinet pad with a sheet or a cover on it to simulate what the Tamponcino does. Here's a simple black and white mobile that I made out of ping pong balls and some bold black and white ribbon. I decided to use a ribbon because painting straight lines on the ping pong balls was a lot harder than I thought it would be. This little project was probably about $3 or $4 total. The balls were 6 for $1. The embroidery hoop was 97 cents. And I had the string, the ribbon, and the paint, because I did paint the third ball with polka dots. It took about 20 minutes to put together. So I happened to buy a 2-pack of embroidery hoops, and with the other one I made this fun rainbow mobile. Changing the mobile every week or 2 keeps the environment interesting for the child and inadvertently fosters their concentration because they end up staring at and studying the new object in the environment with great intensity, which is some of the most important work they do in the first few weeks of life. Here's a general spread of visual mobiles that you might want to introduce between birth and 2 months. The first row are the more authentic mobiles that you can DIY. There are lots of tutorials online. The second row just offers some easier DIY alternatives you can make with things around the house. Let's say you have a beautiful mobile. Now you want to hang it up. How do you do that? You could use a mobile hanger, like the one from the Michael Olaf website, which is a great choice. Or you could use an adhesive hook on a smooth ceiling, a double-sided flexible clamp on a sturdy table or a wall-mounted bookcase, something that won't fall down, a flagpole bracket with a dowel rod, a wall-mounted plant hanger, or a ceiling hook. Or you can use your own creativity. Just make sure it's baby safe. Here's the black and white Munari mobile that I made out of cardstock and introduced to our baby just after birth. You can see how it kept him occupied and interested for a long amount of time. It was really fascinating to him. It was so fascinating that he wouldn't notice when I would leave the room to go and do whatever I needed to do, which was a great thing and great freedom to have. Once your child gains some arm and hand control, you might want to consider introducing tactile mobiles, which are meant to be manipulated by the child's body, usually their hands or their feet. Now, with tactile mobiles, some of the previous mobile hangers won't cut it, and you need something more sturdy. What do you use? You can, of course, buy a beautiful, functional, and sturdy baby activity gym, or you can DIY it using one of these ideas in the second row. My personal favorite is using a tripod grill and lantern hanger, like the one there in the middle. Whatever you use, make sure it's sturdy, it doesn't have small parts, and that it's safe to put in your baby's movement area. Displaying some high contrast black and white picture cards is another way to fascinate your baby and keep their play area interesting for them. You can print off black and white cards from a number of different websites. You can really easily paint your own, or you can even get some black and white books from the library. Next up is 3 to 6 months. Here are some DIY things you can make at home to support their emerging grasping abilities, which is what they tend to be working on this period. 3 to 6 months is usually when they go from instinctively grasping to intentional grasping. So give them some things to grasp. Really anything. You can start off with a simple rod or something like a bangle. Even though they don't start to do hand-to-hand transfer until later on, this is still something nice that they can hold on to and practice manipulating with their hands. Grasping beads are another material you can introduce for babies learning to manipulate objects. You can make your own using big unfinished wooden beads and some leather strapping or thin rope. Just make sure whatever you use is non-toxic because this is likely going to go in the baby's mouth. Use these with supervision. Make sure your knots are really well done and that they won't come off. For babies who have begun to explore by banging and shaking, you can consider offering your own bell rattle. Now, it might be worth it just to buy one that's baby safe. If you do make one, make sure that it doesn't have any parts that can come off or come out. It can't injure the baby because they're still fairly uncoordinated and can hit themselves with it, and that it's safe for them. So use these with supervision. Here are some DIY ideas for 6 to 9 months. A lot of Montessori environments will have some pull-up equipment like the bar and mirror in the upper left-hand corner. If you don't want to get that, you can use a towel rack, you can use a bracket and stairway railing, or furniture like an ottoman, a coffee table, or a couch. If you want something portable, you can build a PVC pull-up gym like the one on the right side. That's a pretty cool DIY project. Here are some things you might have around the house that you can offer for nesting and stacking, including measuring cups, stacking cups, nesting boxes, whether they're glass or cardboard, and stacking bowls. This pull tab box is a fun way to get babies using their pincer grip. Just insert ribbons and pipe cleaners with knots at the end into a box and invite your child to use their pincer grip to pull all the ribbons. Have the ribbons pull from one side to the other so you don't actually have to reset the ribbons. Lots of endless fun. By 9 to 12 months, most children have mastered the palmar grasp and have moved on to practicing their pincer grip. They're also interested in doing more purposeful work. Here are some projects you can make at home that support their emerging interests and abilities. There are usually a number of different stackers introduced in Montessori environments which correspond to the child's emerging abilities. The first stackers invite the child to place wide wooden rings on a stable vertical dowel. DIY this by having the child put slices of paper towel tube or bangles on a paper towel holder. When they're ready for more precise work, introduce wooden spools which they can thread onto a dowel rod stably inserted into a box, like in the third picture. Here's a simple ring stacker that we made out of a box and a dowel rod that's securely fitted to the box. These rings are napkin holders that are painted and decorated with some ribbon. The Object Permanence Box with Tray is a pretty classic material to introduce around 10 months. You can DIY this pretty easily at home, and the only hard part for some people is installing the little ramp on the inside, which lets the ball that's dropped in through the top fall into the tray at the bottom. After the child gets more confident inserting the ball into the circular hole in the top, you can introduce some different shapes and different holes, like in this homemade shape sorter on the far right. Sliding door boxes are really fun for kids, and it also gets them practicing their pincer grip. Find a sliding door gift box or a wine box with a little knob or tab on the end that can be pulled with their forefinger and thumb. Cut a hole in the top for a ball or slot in the top for coins. Coin work or posting work is very precise work that develops hand-eye coordination and wrist rotation. If you can't find a sliding door box, you can just use a box or a jar with a slot in the top and a little access door in the bottom. Here's a simple little coin box we made out of a box we had, as well as some paint, ribbon, and wooden coins. The Montessori peg box, as seen in the upper left-hand corner, invites the child to distinguish between different primary colored pegs and place them into holes. This helps the child perfect hand-eye coordination, order, concentration, and knowledge of color. You can DIY lots of peg work at home using some of these ideas as inspiration. I really like the PVC and dowel rod pegwork idea from the Kavanaugh report at the far right, which I'll link to below. Here's a short list of some things you can introduce or DIY at home between 12 and 18 months. This is when a lot of children really get interested in learning practical life skills, including self-care. So a lot of materials that support them best at this age can be found around the home. Although not developed by Montessori, one piece of equipment many Montessori educators and parents like to have is called the Pikler triangle, which offers babies a safe way to exercise their need to climb. These can be bought or DIY'd if you have woodworking experience. You can also use things like a slide, a step ladder, climbing domes, stairs, couch cushions, or outdoor playground equipment. You can also just go outside and have your baby climb over grassy mounds, logs, trees, or other features. This video featured just some of the things you can DIY at home to support your child's emerging abilities and independence. If you feel I missed anything important, please feel free to share in the comments below. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, subscribe to our channel and click the bell for notifications.